Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Eastland County Today's RIPS Report. I'm Levi Freeman, your host, and we are covering ourselves in a way. We're here at Eastland County Today's office here close to downtown Eastland, and we are sponsored again by our friends over at Dental Excellence of Eastland. They also have an office in Stephenville, so wherever you would like to go there for all your dental needs, we want to thank them for sponsoring today's show. We are joined today with the owner and publisher, H.V. O'Brien, my grandfather. I affectionately call him Papa, and my mother, Amy O'Brien Glenn. Thank you so much for being on the show today to kind of talk about the history, where we currently are, and maybe some of the future of local journalism here in Eastland County. And so we're going to start off with how we normally do and get a little bit acquainted for some of those few people that might not know who legend here H.V. O'Brien is. But let's start with getting to know a little bit about you and your background and where you're from and maybe a couple things you like to do in your spare time.
Well, I don't know if Carbon would claim me or not, but that's where it all began for me. My father was partially handicapped, and he struggled, and I became aware of that at a young age, that he deserved recognition, not because he had accomplished anything or written anything or made great speeches. He had just provided for a family, and the family grew. And he was always the patriarch of the family. And we kids, which for me was many years ago, we just knew that he was the man to be recognized. He and our late mother married. They came out of the county, well, the Pleasant Hill area, both of them. And it was hard scrabble from the first day. But they stuck it out, and my father, who was partially handicapped, he had a withered right arm. So he was limited in what he could do. But he made a living, scant as it was, for his wife and kids. Had several kids, by the way. I think, as I remember, I must have been the last one. And I had older brothers, 3 older brothers, older sister. So my father and mother were very productive child-wise. And all of them had fields of their own. The older boys went into the services, Army, Navy, and Marines. And I came along, and I was the baby of the bunch. But I don't know, they all ganged up and decided that we're going to send this one to school and see if we can make something out of him. One of my older brothers was a career Marine. Another brother was Army. He had a struggling life, but he came out of it okay. But these were hard scrabble days in Carbon. And my daddy was what you might call a slap name, painter, carpenter, he had polio. Of course, they didn't call it polio, but as a teenager, he had a disease that crippled his right arm and hand. but which limited his ability. He never had much of a job except janitor at the local schools, but he did it because his family needed it. My mother worked in what they call the peanut mill, which was a sorting exercise. They had belts full of new Eastland County
Peanuts? No.
nuts come
Yeah.
through in the shell, and then they went through a sheller that put them, and they just come out with a plain peanuts out of these shells. My mother stood at a moving belt 8 hours a day, sorting bad vegetables, sorting bad peanuts that were not healthy. There was a crew of women who stood on their feet 8 hours a day in front of a moving belt. And that was tough. My father would do painting jobs and had not heavy-duty carpenter jobs, whatever he could do with a withered arm and another good arm. And they had, no, now wait a minute. He, by another woman, had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. Their mother died. He married my mother to help raise those kids. And then with him and my mother, they raised 2 boys, me and my older brother, and a girl. So Carbon was productive, and it was rough going because he could only get jobs that he could do with maybe a withered hand, I think he just had the one withered hand, but he learned to paint and carpenter the best he could with his good hand. And I saw him labor to provide for his family. I have never forgotten that. And I want you to know that he, to the bitter end, was responsible to his family. He died as a result of an automobile accident. And then that just put more responsibility on my mother, who stood at a moving belt at the peanut mill, which was covered in fresh shelled peanuts. There, the women's job was to pick out the bad ones and sort them. And that's the climate I grew up in when I started the Carbon Public Schools, 6th grade, and I stayed with it. I must have been a good student because I kept moving up. I never failed to advance. And finally, of course, my father was killed and died in an automobile accident. My mother raised that crew. 2 of the older boys, whom he had had by a previous marriage, went on to both graduate from military service, and he died, and my mother kept on working, and I went through school and found a job that I could do, and a good newspaper publisher who took a liking to me, I guess, because he hired me to sweep out once a week, and he paid my tuition, to junior college, and I did 2 years of junior college. And then my mother and I moved to Abilene, living in rental apartments where I could go to senior college. So I finished my degree at Hardin Simmons, always working for the local newspaper. I have worked in I don't know how many local newspapers, but it put food on the table and it paid the electric bill. And my mother always worked. She was one of the peanut sorters at the peanut mill. This moving belt they would dump raw peanuts on, and the women who had worked there for very minimum wages picked the bad ones out, and the belt moved in front of them 8 hours a day. I don't know how they did it, but they did it because it fed their family.
Right.
I was just going to say,
What?
I was just going to say, I feel very privileged to tell my story after that story because of the hard work of your parents and yourself. You know, I got to live in Eastland and grow up. I was born at Eastland Memorial Hospital, came home to the house you live in today, grew up in the same house that you came back to Eastland when you first came back after living in Abilene and after your military career. Then you came back to Eastland and bought that house. And so I grew up in the house that I came home from the hospital in. And then I went through school in Eastland, graduated in Eastland. My brother, Vance, same thing. He was born here and went through school here. And, you know, we worked, but I think he had us working at the newspaper, or we were around the newspaper all our life. I mean, we were always, I don't know if we were help or hindrance, but we were at the newspaper working. But your story tying into my story in that you got set up and your family set up opportunity for us to have an education, go to college. I went to Hardin Simmons and I wound up graduating from Tarleton, and then I moved around for many, many years, including you, Levi, around the United States and other countries with the military. And anyway, happy to be back in Eastland County now, but it really is a connection to hear his beginnings and then like our story, I think. So
It's all tied together.
Yeah.
It's all tied together. I swear. There are best-selling books that don't tell any better story than ours would be, because we went through highs and we went through lows. At one time, I had 3 brothers in the military during World War II. 2 were from my father, who had my previous marriage. His first wife died. Then my brother was the third one. Three O'Briens in the Second World War, and so I've always had a warm spot in my heart for striving families, because I know what they are. I've been there, done that, and which proves nothing except that if your mind's made up and you want to do something, do it, because it can be done. There were times when sometimes I wondered if it was going to be done, but as far as I remember, we never went hungry. We were clothed. It might not have been the latest fashion, but we wore what was provided to us, and glad to do it. And I will say this, I took to journalism. Heaven knows I didn't even spell it when we came over, but we went to junior college. I kept my mouth shut, tended to my business, and I graduated not with honors, but with at least honor. And then I was able to go on to senior college and get a degree because I was willing to get a night job and work for a newspaper at least 5 nights a week, sometimes 7, because those were back in the days when if you had a job and they needed you for an extra day or so, you showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to finish senior college, and I had worked in newspapers, and I had worked in the one in Cisco. And one day that publisher in Cisco called me, and I was in Abilene working for the Reporter News. And he said, if I buy the Eastland County newspapers, will you come and run one of them? I said, yeah, I don't know anything about it, but I'll learn. So that's how I came to Eastland. He owned Cisco, Rising Star, Ranger, and Eastland. And I was lucky because I was able to pick Eastland. And Eastland and I clicked from the beginning. I was so lucky. And then the publisher went on and he turned over the whole thing to me. And we kept the Ranger Times and the Rising Star and the Cisco Press. And those were good days. They were hard days. But so was being hungry was hard too.
Yes.
So, and I got drafted into the United States Army, and I certainly was not military
Material.
likely, but I kept my nose clean, did what I was told, and went to schools into the Army that provided for me. And after I had finished one of those or more, all of the students were gathered around. Okay, Smith, you're going here, Jones here. It says, O'Brien, you're going to Washington, D.C. to work in the White House. And that's where I went after Army. I stayed there, and I think I finished maybe a senior degree in a Washington newspaper and a school. But I kept my nose clean, took care of business, did what I was told, and come out of the military.
Who was the president? Was it?
Well, now I worked under Eisenhower.
Okay.
Eisenhower was my number one. There may have been others, I don't know, but I do know that. And I was not military by nature, but I excelled and I was prepared and I cooperated, kept my nose clean, and stayed in the Army until I had enough to get out.
Right.
And then of course, I had worked in Cisco in the newspaper, so I presumably was newspaper oriented. I moved here, married, and found that the Cisco Eastland paper was needed an editor. The Cisco editor owned Cisco, Ranger, Rising Star, Eastland, and he agreed that I might be able to do Eastland. So I came to Eastland with a new bride and borrowed money and bought a home and worked at the newspaper until they began to die, and I began to acquire them. And so I eventually had Cisco, Eastland Ranger, and Rising Star. But those days passed.
Right. So could you tell us a little bit about what a typical day looked like and maybe some of the challenges that you had to overcome in those early days taking over the Cisco
Well,
and Rising Star and Eastland Telegram?
it was a different era, absolutely, because I was poor as, I forget this expression, but most of the people in this town, in this county, were also poor. Now, that means if they could find a job, they were lucky. Now, some had farms and they learned farming and worked at farms and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Some worked in grocery stores. But anyway, we, during those periods, worked where we could find work. I did shaking peanuts, was very popular. And that job was they'd pick you up downtown on 8 o'clock in the morning. You would be taken to a farm in Eastland County, and they would dig up the peanut vines. And if you were a shaker, you would go up and down those rows time after time after time,
Yeah.
picking up and shaking the dirt out. And then it better be clean or you're going to go back and re-clean them. And they didn't take sickness or ailing. You had to be ready to go.
Wow.
Anyway, I apparently took a liking to the newspaper, and maybe the newspaper took a liking to me, because as these people left, it became possible for me to own more newspapers and to be more involved. And I can't thank the people in Eastland County enough for putting up with me and staying with me as I learned the business. And if you're honest, of course, you never get too much education. But this was and is based on who's willing to work at least 8 hours a day, or sometime maybe 12 if somebody was sick or out, because there's always plenty of work to do.
Mm-hmm.
It was not as mechanical then as it is now, but I had sense enough to learn to operate a linotype machine, which turned typewriter. If you know how to do the keyboard, they would spit out printing size. They went to the press to press newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I guess I made a good deal. I don't know. But anyway, I finally wound up with Eastland Ranger, Cisco, Rising Star, and had Garmin for a while.
You have it.
Huh?
You still do.
I do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one you want? Oh. But
Well,
anyway, you had to be willing to work, and I'm glad to say that my kids learned how to work. They have to. They've had to. And it didn't kill them.
yep. Not too spoiled, I would say.
Part-time through Cisco Junior College, part-time through Hardin Simmons, and finally degrees that you can hang on the wall. That's how I got them, by working nights. I worked nights at the Reporter News for many, many years. Go in at 5 and get off at 11 or 12, depending on how many pages you had to get out that day.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't kill me.
No. No. You're still kicking here, still going strong. And so, Mom, for you, what would you say the biggest difference is, now running and managing the paper versus what Papa had to go through back in those early days?
Well, when I think back to when I was a kid coming to the paper and working or helping or whatever, you had a major press, you had a press room, you had many more employees, because now with the digital age, the way you produce a newspaper is different than it was back then. Just like he said, when he started with linotype machines, and then it went to, machines that cut out column size prints that were pasted to pages, that went to the dark room, and then the dark room would produce the plates that went on the press that printed it. So it was much more, just a lot more pieces of the puzzle, and more employees really too.
Yeah.
And so as time has marched on, and as our world has changed in the last 20, 30, 40 years, now a newspaper, which is probably hard for you to believe sometimes, but a newspaper has to be a lot more than even a print, which I think we have a copy of our last edition.
Yeah.
Right here.
That's our prime product, is the print edition. But you have to be a print edition. You have to have a digital edition, which we do every week, because some people like to read their paper in their hands. Some people like to read it on their tablet, on their phone, or in their emails. You have to have a website where all the news is on. You have to have social media. And now you have to do even more, just for example, like the RIPS report, and like a YouTube channel, and all the things. So there's a lot of moving parts that are different from maybe when the paper definitely started, but the roots of it's all the same. It's still local, it's family owned, it's conservative in nature because of who he is and we are. And it's also like you said, that it's still, the focus is people, names, pictures of people, of their lives. And the way I always like to say this, a lot of people don't know this, but Eastland County Today, if you're a subscriber to the newspaper, you can go back to through the archives. Every edition's archived now. So you can go back into the archives. Well, I missed that. Oh, my grandson was in the paper last month, but I didn't pick it up, or I'm not a subscriber. You can get back to that if you're a subscriber. And then we can even tell you how to get back to even further older editions, way back editions to all these papers, because we've kind of moved forward as far as we worked with Texas Tech to digitize all the old editions. But I would just say that the main thing I want to say is what's the most important are in the employees, because the employees who show up every week and that, like you said, put in the hours, and we have very dedicated employees here that have been with us for many years, who we trust, and that answer the phone and sell the advertising and build the pages, even though they're done on Mac computers now, not linotype machines, but all that. We have all these abilities. So I want people to know that people always say the print paper or the newspaper selling print. Well, it's not print anymore. It's print and a whole lot more, because you're really getting a lot in the paper now. It made life harder in a way and scarier, but it also opened up a lot of opportunities, I think. So, yeah.
And going back on your subject of, archiving and stuff, all of our RIPS reports are saved on our YouTube channel. So if you're like, oh, I missed that was taken down off Facebook, or you can go right now, use that link below and get to our YouTube channel and check out all of our previous RIPS reports on there as well. So that's just another way that people can have that security of knowing, oh, I can go back and see what was going on back then.
Right. And I was going to say also, the videos are also up on our Eastland County Today website. But
yes.
a lot of people don't know this, but on Facebook, your videos do not last forever up on Facebook anymore.
No.
They used to. So you can maybe watch it there, but if you want to go back and watch it again later, you're going to have to go to YouTube probably to watch it, or to the website. So,
That's right.
yeah.
So what do you think the most important story was that you ever got to cover, and how did you go about covering it? Papa, this one's for you, and maybe Mom, if you have a story as well.
Well, just a few years ago, this will involve me and Amy both. When all the fires, we're having all these fires and throughout the county, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She and I and others, everybody involved, spent time finding out who and was there anybody killed as a result of that?
Yes.
There were.
Yeah.
I thought so, but I can't remember.
Yeah, we had a sheriff deputy killed.
Sheriff's
There
that's it.
Yeah.
But I was just going to relate it back to that. Of course, you've got a million important stories but there's not a week goes by at the newspaper that there's not something, I mean, the scanner's going, there's a fire, there's a wreck, there's an election, there's something exciting all the time, honestly. But the night of the fires, it was kind of eerie night, and long story short, I'd gone home from work and had just heard it was just starting, and I was getting wind that the fires had started and stuff. But long story short, within like 2 hours, the U.S. Texas A&M press corps and their public relations or whatever, I got a call saying, can we come down to the newspaper? And so from that moment, like, I'm like, yeah, I'm on my way right there. I'm hoping I can get down Highway 6. But, I was able to. They met us at our house. We followed in. And from that day on, they based their operations out of here.
Right here.
And that was pretty incredible to watch that and see. I mean, there was, they're taking calls from Fox News, CNN, Telemundo. I mean, it became really and then they worked with us to put out, it helped us to put out more local news. We would work with them to get an update every morning of what's happened with the fires, and we could go put videos out on that. So it really was a good experience. So as bad as the experience was for our county, I mean, it was a good experience for us to get to work with them.
Right.
So.
Operationally, it was a good experience. Yeah, I had a suspicion that might be the biggest story, as unfortunate as that one was. And it's great to see how Carbon's kind of bounced back, since then, and all the new developments there. And it's, I hope you can be proud of, your hometown, Papa bouncing back from that catastrophe, really. My next question, I wanted to throw out this fact that I didn't know about, but I didn't realize that 10% of all Texas counties have not had a single news source since 2005.
Say again.
So 10% of all Texas counties haven't had a single news outlet or source in their county since 2005. And with that being said, you wrote this book that we have here, There Will Always Be the Need for Hometown Newspapers. It kind of goes into some of your life story, and then it kind of talks about your perspectives on the need of, local journalism and fostering, community engagement and literacy and just being in the know of what's happening in your local community. How would you say that your work here at Eastland County Today, with all your newspapers and news outlets, how would you say that that work has made a difference in Eastland County? And what do you have to say to those counties in Texas that unfortunately don't have news coverage at all?
There's more than you can imagine who do not have access. And I don't know how they operate, but it's a community thing that oh yeah, well don't let that get in the newspaper, or what did you see in the newspaper, so and so and so and so. But it's not like it used to be. There's more television, more what do you call it? Talking on it.
Podcasts,
Yeah.
stuff like this, yeah.
Yeah. But it's a different age.
Absolutely. Well, that, I think that, Eastland County has been so lucky to have, you there as a cornerstone, and all the people that have come through the doors here and worked diligently reporting and trying to foster, a strong, community feel, and
Yeah.
just keeping up with the local sports and putting people's names in the paper and the jail reports and what's happening with local elections and taxes. And, I couldn't imagine, what it would feel like to feel so isolated. I would just feel like if I didn't have local news and I only had national or statewide news, I would feel very, very isolated in a way, and just ignorant of, I wouldn't have as strong of community ties. But I just wanted to thank y'all for your legacy and your hard work, so that Eastland County is not one of those, in Texas that has to deal with that problem. And hopefully they're very, isolated. I hope they're out in Big Bend or somewhere, but
Well,
I don't.
They're called like news deserts.
Yeah.
Where there is no community news, and one of the things that is interesting to know, I'm just going to throw that out there. There's very few privately owned newspapers anymore that are independent. And that's a big thing, to be independent, because you can decide, or he can decide, what goes in or out of the paper, or, what you have a say so in it. You're not owned. No one's telling you, no, don't run that. No, that story's not going to work. You have to run this story.
Right.
And a lot of their papers, even smaller town Texas newspapers, are owned by larger, non-even Texas companies.
Mm-hmm.
And it really kind of loses its appeal. I mean, I think anybody who's gone through a larger newspaper, there are some, but they're not like they used to be,
No.
And so that's the blessing, I guess, is to still have that here. And I just like to say too, is people always say, well, I don't know what's going on in the community. Why did they raise our taxes? Why? Oh gosh, they're building a new school. They're building a new football stadium. They're, all the things. Well, I would like to tell you that every tax entity in our counties have to have that in the paper. So if you pick up a paper every week, you can look through legal notices, public notices, and you can find a lot of news going on in your community that you may not, and when they're going to have meetings, and when they're going to have, you can show up to voice your opinion on, tax increases or whatever it is, but it's all in the paper every week.
So I wanted to, this is a good segue into an important question that I've gotten from several people. What can people get out of subscribing to either their, if they want this, mailed to them at their home address, Or if they don't want, they're in the digital age, which, I'm firmly in that camp. If I'm want my news delivered digitally on my phone or computer, tablet, what can they get out of being a subscriber that's not on Facebook or our public social media accounts?
One of the most important things that we carry are virtually legal notices from schools pertaining schedules, so forth, but also even from the courthouse. They keep up with what's going on and can answer a lot of questions to newcomers and to people who want to learn about where do I pay my taxes, who taxes me, and of course we've been here so long that we know, but newcomers they need to know. So there's a lot of things that we help distribute current news and useful for that purpose.
So a lot of tax information that we're not
Yeah.
just going to publicly
Hand me
put
the paper real quick. So just for example, like you can get your print edition, you can get this digital. When you're a digital subscriber, I'm just going to talk. You wanted to know what are the benefits of that or whatever. So
Right.
like, say that's my granddaughter, and I want to send a picture of it to my sister or something, if it's on my phone or my computer, I can screenshot it from my digital edition and send it to them, or my kid playing football or whatever it is. So I mean, that's the kind of beauty of the digital deal. The beauty of this is, I know because I work with AgriLife Extension, is a lot of times when it's 4-H livestock show, things like that, they need these for their scrapbooks, for their just kind of documentation history of the things they've done, for college applications, for just not just for their memories, but for records, for things like that. Also, the legal notices, which are in each section and all. Also, the updates from all the advertisers, if they have specials going on, they've got events going on, community events, private events in the county, coupons, ways to save money.
Yeah.
Every week there's coupons in here. But we do still have classified ads. There's jobs. There's there's jobs posting. Not as many as we used to have, because people do look for jobs different ways now. But they're still here, especially some local jobs.
Yeah.
So that's a very important thing. So
Yeah, I would also say, if you're at that point, like you're put a job in the paper, then there's a good chance they're going to actually pick up the phone, because I can't tell you how many times I've applied the jobs online on Indeed or any other platform and just never heard back.
Yeah.
At least like we talk about in the paper, it's real, that it's verified, that it's a real job posting, that they've had to communicate and get that in the actual paper. So it's a good place, even yard sales, things like that. They're gonna happen. They've been vetted.
And digital, if you're a digital subscriber, like we said a while ago, you get the archives. So you can get back to older editions. So that's a plus to be a subscriber too. And then you wouldn't believe how many people call here who, an attorney, a insurance company, there's been a wreck on I-20 and maybe it came out in the paper, or even the DPS report about what happened, where it was at. If there happened, we normally don't take pictures too often of wrecks or tragedies or whatever, but I mean, if there happened to be one, that's evidence, and so it's the only other thing I could say about this is, like he said, when he said it's black ink on white print, it's published every week. So there's a publication date on this. So that makes it like you said, you have to put some, you're putting your name and stamp on there that you're behind what went in this paper, because like I said, it can come back as
Yeah.
far as someone going back. You can get back to it. It can be used in the future. It can be used 15 years from now.
Yeah.
So
Just something personally, I've heard a lot of commentators online complain about, when they try and go get a news source on a website, it's so much, there's so much flashing ads, and like you try and look at this sports story, but then an ad will pop right in front of it. And that's so annoying to deal with. And it's refreshing to have like a page that's not changing, that's not flashing lights all over,
Oh, yeah.
To get that, just the news that you want, is somewhat refreshing. So moving on from all the benefits of being a digital or a print subscriber, and you can be both, if you would like. Again, we'll have that link in the description below. Mom, what lessons have you learned by working alongside Papa?
that's a tough one, because he's not only my dad, but he's kind of my hero, because I've learned it even more living back here again. But the way he treats people, his kindness, I don't think you've ever met a stranger, and everybody, their admiration and just the way they happy to see him. I mean, that just is like, I don't know what else more you could ask for, is have a father who,
Well, I've never stolen chicken, so I guess they've learned to respect me.
but
Yeah.
I mean, there's too many things to say, but in a nutshell, I enjoy being with him. I don't think anybody doesn't. He's kind of like you, Levi. Y'all are both very likable, and he's fun to be with. So
Yeah, I would say that, we didn't really talk about this, but he also has a history in magic, and he has been a showman. And I just think that that's another part of it is that I've always admired about him, is just, you don't know exactly what you're going to get. And that has always stuck with me. And it's just in my blood, having that. And I love that, about Papa, and having that be a part of me, and just, treating people giving people the benefit of the doubt. And, I've also seen you be tough when you had to be tough. And I just respect you so much. And, you're a legend to others, and you're a legend to me. And I love you. And I'm so proud of what you've continued to build and what you've built here. And it's a special place. It's a special business. Journalism is special, but especially here in Eastland County, just keeping the legacy of old Rip alive. And we're about to get into some of those questions here in a sec. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the future of Eastland County Today in our operation here. What would you like to see in the future for Eastland County Today? I know we're starting to do the Rips Report. This is our first year doing Rips Report, the podcast and video podcast, and I've really enjoyed doing it. But, what would you like to see?
Well, you would think with all the intelligence surrounding us that we could put together a thinking, a plan to utilize that space over there.
Mm. Yes, he's pointing to our old press room, and that's a lot of space.
A lot of space.
A lot of space in there. And that is something that could work on. There's many possibilities
Yeah.
with that much space to work with, and it's in a pretty good location, I would say, being.
But let me ask ourselves this question. Have we ever thought about putting a classified ad in, identifying the space available downtown?
Yeah.
If
Well,
not,
think about it.
if not, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
We
sitting
have
over
space
there.
available. We have space available. We'll
Come
put that
talk
right
to
out
us.
here.
Come
Huh?
talk to us. Yes,
So-
come talk to us.
Yeah.
We're open to suggestions and looking for a partner for some of our available space out there. Mom, do you have any goals for the future of Eastland County Today?
My goal is for us to increase our readers and viewership, which is happening, it's growing, and continue to reach them in as many ways. But I really would, I'd love to be the one, or us to have the one paper in Texas that has entire readership of the whole county.
Yeah.
That would be like a huge goal, is to do that. And I think it's possible. I mean, we're pretty close we definitely have the views and stuff with everything we're doing. So, but I would like to offer more opportunities for cross-reference between print, digital, web, between all the things we're doing, so that whether it's RIPS report, whether it's advertising, it could be digital, video advertising, all the things that are possible. We're going to start doing more and more of that. So,
Okay. Yeah. I think that that's something we can implement, is
yeah.
making it so that you have easier access to all of our mediums through each medium.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that sounds exciting stuff. And, my goal is to just keep growing RIPS Report, keep getting the news out there, keep having fun with it, and, stay true and be as authentic as possible, and I think that honesty is the best policy with this. And so this leads us to our RIPS Report questions, inspired by, of course, Old Rip, the legendary horned toad, who you have so graciously supported throughout your whole life, since learning about Old Rip. Who or what would you like to rip a new one? Whoever wants to go first with that question.
Well, I'll say this. We, with others, have done a lot of things to promote Old Rip, but he's still a big attention grabber. I think we need to use him more in whatever ways we can. I mean, that's good. I like that. But
Yeah, he's pointing at our little logo.
yeah,
Yeah, he's
we
even
use him
part of it.
as
Yeah.
part of our logo on Eastland County Today.
but we normally, on the occasion, have a reenactment of the opening of the tomb.
Oh, yeah.
You remember? We've done that.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying,
Yes.
but it's something that, well, did we usually
So-
do that on
so
a
we're gonna-
Monday morning?
Well, it's always in, I believe it's January, February. I believe it's February. But anyway, you're talking about at the courthouse, the old RIP, where everybody takes the old RIP oath,
Yep.
and it's the commemorative date of when he was
Yeah.
revealed. So I guess we're going to rip open the.
I was just about to say, I think that you would like to rip open the cornerstone
We'll see if Judge Hullum will
and
allow
see that reenactment of Old Rip again. What a fitting
Well,
response.
that we have done that.
We've
had
ripped it
that
before.
Old Rip Day, we'll gather at the tomb and
I think that's a great idea.
That
We
would be
need
a
to
great.
re-kick
Yeah.
it, yes.
Yep. We need to bring that up. City Hall meeting coming up.
That involves getting the county judge and others
It'll-
participating.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It'll be a little process.
Yeah.
Mom, what about you? Anything you would like? Who or what would you like to rip a new one?
I thought hard about this, but I'm gonna go with I would like everyone in Eastland County to rip open and read the Eastland County Today newspaper. So
That's a good one. That's a good answer.
one.
Yeah, also rip into all of our, all of our previous RIPS reports, go take a look at them. They're on our YouTube channel. That's what I would want as well. Other than mosquitoes. I also hate mosquitoes out there.
Laura, will you call Vance and tell him that we'll be there within the hour sometime?
yeah,
Yeah.
this took longer than you thought.
Yeah, it's a long one, but it's a good one. Last question, we'll wrap things up here. If old Rip was alive today, what do you think he would have to say about Eastland, Texas?
What he would say,
Yes, what would he say about Eastland today?
I think he would say, if frogs could talk,
Yes.
that the county has done a fair job of remembering his story, but that seriously we all could do more.
Hmm.
What about a contest to give our citizens a chance to comment on how we could further exploit, and that's what it is, exploiting Eastland County. And I think to do that right, we would have to figure out some way to get Ranger and Cisco and Carbon, Rising Star involved in that event. Maybe what if we could do this, the county alternated to have the old Rip salute in Cisco next year. We could go alphabetical because it's always been an Eastland event. That cuts down on our popularity. It's always been an Eastland event.
Hmm.
How do you involve Cisco, Ranger, Rising Star, Carbon?
Yeah, I do. Yes, while he's in Eastland, he is a symbol for the county.
Yeah.
I would agree
He
with
was
that.
in the county cornerstone of the
Right.
county courthouse that represents the entire county.
That is a way to pitch that.
Holden and Desdemona and
Yes, that is something to explore. It is nice, obviously to have the parade and all the celebrations coming by him here in Eastland, but maybe there's a way to bring him, to other towns and get them involved, in that way. Might be an idea. What about you, Mom? What would you say old Rip would say if he were alive today? And could speak, of course.
I agree. We can always do more and make it better and all that. But I do think we've done a pretty decent job. And I'd just like to say, if you may not can see behind us, but we have a very nice display of old Rip just here at Eastland County Today. So I would say invite people to come and look at our old Rip Horny Toad Museum here at the Eastland County Today, because we're keeping the legend alive.
Yes.
We've all taken the oath, and we're going to continue to support and to spread that amazing story. So I think he would be pretty happy with what we're doing, and we'll keep going, So
is there some way we could say, what are you doing to further the story?
there's their publisher.
Yeah, how many people have you converted this year to be an old Rip believer? Papa's been HV's been, the most ripped out, for several years in a row. It's either him or Betty Armstrong, going back and forth, but mostly Papa and Eastland County Today being the most ripped out at Rips Fest. And I think that Old Rip would have to salute you for furthering his story and making it such an impact and a calling card for Eastland County, and something that we can all be behind and support. And it's always great to have a legend, and a unifier for a people. And I think that even if some people in, another state think it's silly and whatever, you can't deny that it just makes it fun and have magic in your town. And with that, I would like to, so yes, I think that Old Rip would thank you in this paper for continuing and growing his legacy and still trying to find ways to grow it, even after all these years. Lastly, how can people find or get a hold of Eastland County Today? Mom, you have some links for people.
Yes. So you can come here to the office at 215 South Seaman, Eastland, Texas, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. You call us on our phone at 254-629-1707. And if it's during business hours, if not, it rolls over and we'll call you back. 24/7, eastlandcountytoday.com, and that's our website, and you can go there to see the news. You can go there also to link to RIP reports. You can also go there to subscribe 24/7. So if you want to subscribe print or digital, you can do that sitting from home 24/7. And then in addition to that, we have our social media. We have Facebook, Eastland County Today Facebook. We have a not as active, but we do have an Instagram account, Eastland County Today. And then we've got our Eastland County Today YouTube channel, which all the RIP reports are uploaded to.
Yes.
So there's lots of ways to find the Eastland County Today. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Papa, HV, and Mom, Amy, for being on this episode of RIP's Report. I'm Levi Freeman with Eastland County Today, and we want to thank once again our title sponsors, Dental Excellence. Go check them out. If you have a cavity, any type of issue, they know how to take care of it here in Eastland at Dental Excellence. And we just want to encourage you to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Go check out our YouTube channel. Go look at our other RIPS Report videos. And subscribe to Eastland County Today for more stories like this. We have links in the description below. And with all that being said, thank you for watching. And until next time, stay ripped.